Jeep calls this the most 4x4 capable and fuel-efficient Grand Cherokee yet. However, it's also one of the most expensive. This is the first ever electrified Grand Cherokee called the Summit Reserve 4xe, but at nearly 130 grand, is it worth having a Jeep you can plug in when the alternative, the non-plug-in hybrid version, is almost 30k cheaper? This is available in Australia now, but it's going to have to bring a lot to the table if it's going to do what Jeep wants it to do, and that's tackle the big dogs of off-roading like the Toyota Land Cruiser and mix it with the plush alternatives from Europe. So we've been driving this today on and off the road to find out if it can do both. If you're not quite up to speed on the Grand Cherokee story, it sits above in the range the Cherokee, RIP, but below the rather large Wagoneer, which you can't buy here in Australia, at least not at the moment. This one, 5th generation, is obviously the first electrified one, but as the brand's large SUV overall, it's got a lot of heavy lifting to do if it's going to take on the premium space. You can get the base model of this that's not plug-in hybrid for about 80k, but if you want the plug-in hybrid one, you're looking at the most expensive model Jeep Australia currently offers. It shouldn't be a surprise that Jeep Australia's first electrified model is more expensive than the rest of its range, but at $129,950 before on roads, it's about $10,000 more than the equivalent top spec in the larger 7-seat version of the Grand Cherokee. That's the Grand Cherokee L. Of course, the main reason for it being more expensive is that it comes with a different drivetrain. Instead of the traditional V6, it has a smaller engine, but electric motors and a quite large battery pack, and none of that is cheap. It does come, however, with a lot of other goodies inside.
Some of the features in the 4xe are available in lesser variants of the Grand Cherokee range. These are things like the combination 10.1-inch multimedia touchscreen and 10.25-inch driver display, the heated and ventilated front seats with the heated steering wheel, and the auto LED headlights and high beam, but the Summit Reserve takes things a little further. The seats are finished in comfy quilted Palermo leather, and even the rear outboard seats are heated. 4 passengers can also control their own climate zone, while the front 2 can have seat massages. Everyone's also treated to a top-tier sound system, as far as Jeep is concerned, with a 19-speaker and 950-watt amplifier Macintosh high-performance audio system. The interior lighting includes illuminating door sill plates, while the interior trim is adorned with proper wood. For an additional $5,500, a night vision camera up the front, a head-up display, and a front passenger media screen can be added, though this pack is also the only way you can get a wireless phone charger.
I won't spend too much time walking around pointing at things and telling you how it looks because it's basically just a Grand Cherokee, but it's got a little bit of blue around the badging, for example, to signify that it's a hybrid here above the 7-bar grille that Jeep is basically never going to let go of. It's also got automatic LED DRLs and headlights with automatic high beam. The last thing that the plug-in hybrid gets is just above these front 21-inch alloy wheels is the plug. Obviously the petrol versions don't need it, but this one has a little blue E just to signify that it's electric. The rest of the car though looks pretty much like a Jeep Grand Cherokee. And finally, here behind this quite dusty and automatic tailgate is plenty of storage space. There's a pretty cavernous boot. It's 1,067 litres, which is 40 more than before. And if you fold down the rear seats, there's 2,004 litres. Heaps of space, not too high of a loading height, and obviously under here, there's actually a spare tyre, not just a repair kit, so well done Jeep. From the driver's seat, the interior of the Grand Cherokee 4xe Summit Reserve looks pretty impressive. There's actual wood as some of the trim, and there's 3 screens in this version, one for the passenger if you opt for the $5,500 extras pack. But once you start touching some of the things in the interior, it doesn't feel maybe quite as premium as 130 grand would suggest. There's some good little storage spaces here for the cup holders and here where your phone charger is hidden, but it's a little bit plasticky and hard to click in and out of place. The other thing is that the tech in this car can be a little bit fiddly. We found the multimedia screen to be just a little bit annoying to try and find through quite a lot of submenus exactly what we were looking for, even though once you get there, it's all pretty clear. There's a lot of buttons for the climate controls, but they are physical buttons, so that is at least better than having to go through menus to find that as well. Aside from that, these leather seats are actually really nice with the quilted trim. There's a huge sunroof above you, and it feels like, you know, you have actually got somewhat of your money's worth for a fairly expensive large SUV. The other thing is, though, that it's quite spacious, and if you're sitting with your arms out to the side while you're driving, you've got a good little bit of space to lean. The steering wheel itself feels quite ergonomically nice, and the buttons on that are quite simple. As well, the driver display in front of you, pretty basic and does the job. It's all digital, but everything you need to know is there, quite visible. You can sometimes accidentally set it to miles per hour if you're on the speedo and you bump the OK button though, which can be a little bit confusing if you're trying to follow the speed limit. A few other convenient things to point out though, there's plugs for basically everything. There's a 12-volt plug, a HDMI plug so that the passenger can actually watch something while plugged in that the driver can't see or hear. There's also two both USB-A and USB-C options for plugging in phones here, and there's an aux plug as well. There's also a wireless phone charger down here in that little section, and there's a fairly big center bin plus a little top spot for small items. There's plenty of storage in the door for a water bottle plus other smaller things, as well as up here for small items like maybe coins. Here in the back seat, it definitely feels like a large SUV. Not only can you see all of the interior in front of you, but there's heaps of space. I'm behind my own 5'11" seating position, and my head's not anywhere near the roof. I can lean fully side to side without knocking my skull, and I can actually move my feet around as well. Heaps of space, and if it's a long trip, I can even nudge myself back and lean back and relax a little bit. Up the front, I mentioned there are plugs for just about everything, and in here there's actually a nearly household style socket. It's a 230 volt AC plug, as it says on the little cap there. Plus there's also USB-A and USB-C plugs in the back here as well. The seats back here are also, like the front seats, heated and cooled on the outboards. The middle seat doesn't get that, but that's okay because if you've got two people in the back, you'll probably have this down anyway for the cup holder and the armrest. It's pretty comfortable. There's vents deluxe back here, and you've got your own climate controls, so you can set the temperature perfectly, sit here, and enjoy the ride.
Here's where the reason for that extra bump in the price tag is. It's the hybrid system, which not only helps a smaller and more efficient petrol engine move the full-size SUV along, but it also allows a 52k driving range under electric-only power. With total power and torque outputs of 280 kilowatts and 637 newton meters, the Grand Cherokee Summit Reserve 4xE's hybrid system consists of a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine assisted by a pair of electric motors which drive all four wheels via the brand's QuadraTrack 1 active 4x4 driving system. This is paired with an 8-speed ZF-sourced automatic transmission. Compared to the roughly 13-year-old naturally aspirated 3.6-litre Pentastar V6 petrol unit, which produces 210 kilowatts and 344 newton meters, the plug-in hybrid's drivetrain is a rather big step forward in terms of efficiency and also driving responsiveness. As mentioned, Jeep claims the Summit Reserve 4xE is its most efficient Grand Cherokee yet, with a 3.2-litre per 100k consumption figure. In terms of charging that 17.3 kilowatt-hour battery I mentioned earlier, a standard 3 kilowatt Mode 2 charger at home can do so in less than 10 hours, Jeep says, while a Mode 3 wall box you can install at home with a 7.4 kilowatt charging rate can do it in less than 3. The plug-in Grand Cherokee has a 72-litre fuel tank, which is slightly smaller than the petrol version's 87 litres.
From behind the wheel, the Grand Cherokee 4xE is pretty capable. It's a large SUV, so it does feel like that, and the batteries do give it a little bit of extra weight. It's already a pretty heavy car, and then it's got enough of a battery pack for 52 k's of driving range. But its suspension, aside from being a little bit stiff to accommodate that, is still pretty comfy. We did take it off-road for a little bit earlier on, and when the ride height is at its highest setting, it does feel quite bumpy, but then again, you're driving off-road, so you're not going to expect it to be perfectly comfortable. Aside from that, on the road, and especially in the pretty pleasant EV driving mode, which, still works in twisty roads at relatively high speeds, the Jeep Grand Cherokee does a pretty good job of holding its own. There are a few little things about the way it drives, though, that might bother you if you have driven another plug-in hybrid before, or if you're used to all of the technology in a, $130,000 car working nice and slick. One thing that might bother you is that in the battery saving mode, where you can choose to save the battery charge that you've got or use the engine to charge the battery more, it still lets you use a fair bit of battery power while it's charging, so it takes quite a while to charge the battery up. The other thing is that some of the options on the screens take a little bit of a while to load. If you're at night off-roading and you want to use, for example, the night vision mode that this car has, it takes a little while to load. The other thing is, today while we were driving the car, I actually couldn't get the navigation to load at all. And it might have just been one of the test cars, but if that's going to be a problem, then it's probably something that'll come up day to day. Another couple of small things about the interior, especially while you're trying to concentrate on the road, is that some of the button placement doesn't feel quite ergonomically sound. Some of the buttons that are along the top of the multimedia screen, for example, are angled so that you can't quite read them when you're driving. And the buttons to change drive modes from hybrid to charging and EV are all kind of hidden down to the right. So you kind of have to feel for them and just hope that you've pressed the right one when it comes up on the screen. The other thing is that the fuel economy figures that we can see on these test cars that probably haven't been driven to regular day-to-day standards for the 1500 or so Ks that we can see on the trip readings are showing fuel figures of between 12 and 14 litres per 100 Ks, which is about 10 higher than the 3.1 that Jeep claims. That's probably not going to be such a huge issue for you if you're driving these mostly under electric power and around the city. The other thing is, like I said, that under electric power and even in hybrid mode with the engine helping, it's quite responsive and it does feel like that 280 kilowatts is really there, helping you along and not making this pretty big SUV feel sluggish.
The Summit Reserve 4xe plug-in variant has been specifically tested by ANCAP along with the rest of the Grand Cherokee range and has been awarded a maximum 5-star rating. Jeep claims the Grand Cherokee boasts more than 110 standard and available safety and security features, but the main ones you'll need to know about include 8 airbags which cover both the front passengers at front, side and knee, as well as the second row passengers at the sides, plus full curtain airbags. Other key features include blind spot monitoring with rear cross traffic alert, adaptive cruise and lane keep assist, pedestrian detection and AEB, driver monitoring and traffic sign recognition, intersection collision assist, and a surround view parking camera. Plus, specific to the Summit Reserve is the ParkSense parallel and perpendicular park assist, which is a little bit of a mouthful, as well as the active driving assist system, which is essentially level 2 autonomous driving. Jeep offers a 5-year, 100,000 kilometer warranty for its whole range, including the electrified Summit Reserve, while also including a lifetime roadside assist service. Jeep has also capped pricing for the first 5 services, which occur every 12 months or 12,000 Ks, whichever comes first, at $399 for the whole Grand Cherokee range. While its cap prices are quite reasonable, it's fairly possible that expensive issues are more likely to come up after 60,000 Ks, and even more so after the 100,000 Ks warranty limit is reached.
The Jeep Grand Cherokee Summit Reserve 4xe is pretty nice to drive, pretty nice to look at, has cool features in its interior, and in its electric driving mode is probably where it's best. That might be its downfall though, because with only 52 Ks of range in that mode, it sort of limits the amount of adventuring you can do where the actual plug-in hybrid nature of it makes it more efficient. Otherwise, you're just carrying around a lot of heavy battery stuff and it's not at its best. If you wanted something for those long adventures, there's probably something else in Jeep's own range, maybe a lower spec full petrol Grand Cherokee that'll do the job. And they're still pretty well equipped. The other thing is that they're a lot cheaper. They start at 80K and honestly, the 50 grand is probably a lot more than you're going to save in fuel. The other thing is if you want something at that mid-hundreds price point that's really plush, the Europeans have a lot to offer there and they're kind of a little bit nicer inside too. So I think it's going to be a pretty hard sell for the specific audience that the Summit Reserve 4xe is looking for, but you've got to give it to them. Jeep has done a pretty good job of lifting its game.